Welcome back to the Gary Shannon podcast. He's still here and he's unsupervised.
I think I should interview you this time, Nick. You know?
Yeah.
No, don't turn off.
No, you don't want. They want to hear you. I want to hear you.
I'm only joking, mate.
I've only got half the stories you've got. I've been in some of them.
Yes, you have.
And they're going to be the after dark, uncensored. We'll have to do one of them one day.
Oh yes, an R-rated Gary Shannon, is it?
Yeah, well, and me as your sidekick occasionally, but we'll do that. We'll do that. In the last episode, Gary, and I think a lot of people would have digested it now. If you haven't seen the start of it, you're obviously found us on YouTube at Podcast Capital. Please check out all the back episodes, like it and subscribe it. And any
This
comments
is number
you have,
6, is it?
Yes, it is.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it is,
mate.
and it's great just two of us sitting down having a chat. And here some of these stories, Gary, I've heard over the years. A lot of the people would have heard bits and pieces as they come into your life, because I've found a lot of people who now know that we're doing this, your podcast, came in from other states or from other countries and only discovered you later in life. So they've been delighted to hear the backstory.
Sure.
Other of us who have been with you almost all the way through your career knew a lot of the story. So people have come into your life, or you come into their life, I should say, their cars and their kitchens, not literally, but via the wireless
Yes.
and a bit of TV right throughout your whole career. In the previous episode, talking about celebrities, some nice, some not so nice, some might have had bad days, but they're always interesting. Guests and radio is the forefront of interviewing. You would have had guests and stars coming into our town over the years that you're interviewing that just had the reputation, not necessarily of being rude, but just not great talkers.
Well, Farnham was the best.
Yeah.
He visited the morning crew every time he came.
Oh, he was a regular, wasn't he?
First cab off the rank, and we became. He used to send me a Christmas card.
Wow.
And he is. It's a cliche now. It's always said that he is the nicest guy in showbiz, and John really is. And
What you see is what you get.
brilliant, lovely man. I've got a story about him which can kick this off.
Yeah, sure.
It was 1986. John Farnham had come back again, and he was driving a beat-up old Volkswagen around Melbourne.
It's fair to say he was on the bones of his arse, really, wasn't
Right down there,
Yeah,
the bones of his arse,
Yep.
yes. And he came in. I was doing a show on Channel 9 called Clapperball.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
It was a music show. I can't remember his name. The guy who hosted the movie.
Michael.
Michael. I'll get it in a minute.
Yeah.
He did the movies and I did the music side of things. And Michael Brock, that's him. And so I had an interview teed up with John Farnham, who was coming into the 9 studios. So he came in and we had a little office. He walked into my office and said, "G'day, Gary." I said, "Oh, John, how are you, mate?" He threw this CD down in front of me which said Whispering Jack.
Which no one had heard of.
I'd never heard of it.
No.
And I said, "What's that?" He said, "That's it." I said, "What do you mean that's it?" He said, "If this doesn't work, I don't know where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do, mate." Because little did we know then that Glenn Wheatley, his great mate,
And manager.
had financed it. It was down to the
He
end.
mortgaged his house.
Yeah, mortgaged his house and financed. That's faith.
That's belief.
Unbelievable.
And friendship.
Yeah.
And loyalty.
So, and he didn't tell me that then,
No,
but I
no.
learnt later.
Yeah.
But he did indicate that this is it, mate. This either works or I'm cactus. You know, and that's how John used to talk, straight shooter. So I went around. I said, "Let's go and listen to a couple of tracks." And I'm going to play a couple of tracks in the interview. And then he said, I said, "What should I play?" And he said, I said, I'll have a listen. And so we went and listened to the album. And I was blown away. The first time I heard Whispering Jack. And I said, "Mate, I don't think you've got any worries." He said, "Oh, yeah, but we've been here before, mate." I said, "Not to this extent.
Yeah.
This is world-class stuff, John." He says, "Yeah." He said, "Everyone's pretty pleased with it." But
You could tell just by listening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Oh,
Well,
I only heard it when it came out commercially,
yeah.
obviously.
So anyway, we chose the tracks to play do the interview, play a song, do a bit more of the and play a song out. The song we played was another touch of paradise.
Yep, beautiful song.
And and of course The Voice.
The Voice.
So they were the two songs we selected. And I said, mate, this is really good stuff. He said, oh, thanks, mate, I appreciate it. But, you know, in this game, you know.
He still was tentative, nervous.
He wasn't confident,
No.
you know, to say the least.
But he had a few setbacks, hadn't he, since the old Sadie days?
That's the problem.
Bit of a little river band up and down.
Up and down, he was broke.
Yes.
Stone motherless.
Yes.
So it needed to work. And as we all know, thank God it did.
The rest is history, isn't it?
And but he was, when he hit superstardom, he was the same humble, joking around guy he was on that day that he didn't know he had a future. You know, that he came into Channel 9 and spoke to me that day. He was still as nice as he was when he was a superstar.
You're the second person close to me who's told me a similar story. I worked in Europe, and my boss in Europe happened to be an Aussie from Adelaide, Peter Benson. And Peter had worked with Murdoch, had worked with all these great people, and although he was living and working and running a big radio network, which he hired me for in Europe, he always came back to Australia, had a daughter here, and he told the story in the late 90s while I was working for him, that he had come back, and by then John had broken massively, and the rest was history. 2-3 albums, and they were up in the one of the resorts up in northern Queensland, and he said it was a quiet day. They're swimming, and there's only a couple of people in the pool. Peter's wife is sitting one side, and there's a couple down the other end, and they were swimming, two blokes in the water, not really, comes up, and they look at each other from about 5 metres apart. Now, Peter recognised John Farnham. And he said, obviously, he recognised him, but Peter had met lots of famous people. And he said to me, Declan, I spent about an hour talking about just all sorts of stuff, not really about music or who you are or anything like that. And he said, so much so that both wives, who didn't really know, weren't talking to each other, had to sort of call us to go and have our lunch or whatever. He said, one of the most genuine people I've ever met. And to hear you tell that story, very similar.
Beautiful man, mate. And my life was better for meeting him and spending some time with him. And he was just he was a beauty. Well, he still is a beauty. Things have gone haywire for him, we know, which is very sad.
Yep.
But he's a fighter, and he's still got his family, and he loves his kids and
grandchildren now as well.
It's good. It's all good.
And surviving. And there's plenty of back catalogue stuff to enjoy the great times of John Farnham.
Yeah.
People that you interviewed that you thought, now I've got and I paid you the respect because you worked for me and I worked with you as a colleague. And people who often thought, he just wings it. I've seen the preparation. And going to an interview, you'd have to prepare. But going along to meet rock stars or movie stars who might have a reputation of you've got to just drag every word out of them. How did you find interviewing people that you thought had this reputation? How did you get the best out of them for those interviews?
Well, actually, I had a plan for people like that.
Yeah.
Not their fault. They weren't extroverts. They were introverts.
Yeah.
You know, and. You know, I was teed up to do an interview with Joan Armatrading, the great Joan Armatrading.
Drop the Pilot.
And Drop the Pilot and many others. And I was to meet her at the Hyatt when the Merlin was the Hyatt.
Oh, yes.
It was the Hyatt Hotel.
Yes.
Or was it the Merlin?
No, it was the Merlin originally.
Merlin. It was the Merlin.
Same building.
So she was staying down there, and they'd set up a bit of a table with coffee and all that, and she was there and I was there. And I'd heard that... well, good luck with that, Gaz, because Joan Armatrading, she's got a reputation as a difficult interview.
Yeah, it just doesn't talk much.
No, and you got to drag stuff out. I said, okay, right. So I had this plan, and I'd used it a couple of other times before people who I expected to be a bit hard. So I sat down with her, met her and Joan, and she was softly spoken, and I thought, she's everything they said she would be. And so I started... talking about her music, and I Love and Emotion. I love that song,
Great
Jane.
song.
That's my favourite song of yours of all time. Oh, is it? Most people say, the more commercial stuff. And I said, no, I love that song. And I said, one thing I wanted to ask you is the guy with the big baritone voice, Love and Emotion. What a voice. Who is that? Darth Vader? Or who is that?
Yeah.
And she laughed. And everybody was surprised. Nobody had seen Jane laugh before.
Some of the road crew had been there 20 years.
What's he got? We haven't got. God. Anyway, so we had a laugh at that, and she said, strange. He's been a good friend of mine since I was 16. He's been in the band. He's a wonderful musician. Told me his whole story. And I said, that's great, and I'm so happy. But then I mentioned a couple of her albums and this, and she said, this guy actually is...
So you did some preparation?
Lots. So she said, this, you can see a thing, this guy knows what he's actually interested in my music.
Yeah.
Where a lot of guys jump in, Joan Armour Trading's here, good luck with the tour and all that sort of stuff. No personal stuff at all. But she was enjoying it, and she started chuckling away and giggling, and well, Gary, and she called me Gary. I've got her now.
Yeah, strong Birmingham accent.
And that interview went for an hour.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. We made a special out of it, actually, and it was very, very good. So that was Joan Armour Trading, and I really enjoyed that. That was great having her. Another one was Chris Rea. Now, Chris, he was not into the
passed away earlier this year.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was very sad about that because I got quite close to him during the interview, and we had a good laugh together. I was at the entertainment centre. He was rehearsing, and he was the furthest away from the industry of any person I've ever met.
I've heard this before.
I walked in with the once again the clapperboard crew, Channel 9. And we set it up, and we're going to interview Chris. He was up there playing,
doing a sound check. Was he?
Yeah. On the beach or something. One of his favourite songs.
Fantastic.
And he's there in a white shorts, like runners shorts, and a white singlet.
Yes.
With pie stains down the front, or what I presume were pie stains.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I said, how you go? And he had the Winnie Red stuck in the end of the guitar, and playing a few chords. Whack it back in. Yeah. And I'm sitting there watching, this guy's unreal, Look at him.
Real character.
Do you know he was one of the best guitarists? He was a session guitarist. He used to do a lot of play on the Who, McCartney and Wings.
No, so that was his background.
He was a very good, one of the best guitarists in the world. Wow. Chris Rea, mate.
Yeah.
Have a listen to the guitar work on his albums. Wow.
Right up there like Mark Knopfler style, wasn't it?
Mate, right there.
From the same part of England, by the way, northeast of England.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm sitting there and I thought, I'd been warned that he can be difficult.
Very introverted.
Very quiet.
Yep.
And I don't think he really likes the industry that much, to tell you the truth. He's a bit like me, hates talking about himself.
Oh, yeah, we can see that.
Well, kind of. And anyway, so I said to Chris, I said, okay, mate, it's great to have you here in Perth, and you sold out 2 or 3 concerts. People love you here.
Yeah.
You've got a strong following. So, yeah, right. And I said, a couple of things I always wanted to ask you, mate. Fool if you think it's over. One of your early hits, late 70s. I said, I often listen to that, and it's a beautiful love song, and it's, I'm sure it's encouraged lots of young ladies or men to go on and try harder with the relationship and all that stuff. He said, no, you're way off the mark, Gary. I said, I thought it was like a love song. He said, no. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, it's about, I wrote that song. My sister came home, she was 15 or 16, and her first boyfriend had dumped her. He said, it's a song about my sister. I said, you're kidding. He said, no, that's where it came from. Fool if you think, you listen to it, you're a fool if you think it's over, it's just begun.
Yes.
And there's something about sibling or sister or something in the song, but you just think it's
you automatically think.
It's someone with a broken heart. Well, it was kind of, but you don't think it's his sister.
But not the angle he took.
Yeah.
And Gary, I think it's fair to say, and a lot of the audiences know this too, when these acts are touring, and I've heard the most stupidest questions, what do you think of our city? They've just landed, they're in a hotel room. What's your favourite colour?
Yeah, they wouldn't have a clue.
Just to go, and I think it's a great lesson in life, whether they're famous or not, striking a chord with someone, having a conversation.
Be interested in what they do and what they've
know
created.
a little bit about the subject.
And that's, with these so-called difficult interviews, I always took that angle. The next thing I did with Chris, which really won him over, he loved it. I said, mate, your album... which contained Diamonds and Fool If You Think It's Over. I'm rattling songs off of it.
Oh, so you've done your research.
Going, this guy knows what he's talking
about.
And he said, I said, the album, whatever happened to Benny Santini? And he looked at me and said, He said, you know what? He said, the amazing thing is, Gary, he called me Gary. Oh,
Yeah,
we're mates, we're buddies.
We've made it, yeah.
So he said, the amazing thing about that, he said, you are the first person to ever ask me about that title. I said, why? It's an obvious question, isn't it? He said, well, according to everybody else, no. And I said, well, whatever happened to Benny Santini? And who is Benny Santini?
Santini.
He goes, and I said to him, I actually said, maybe everybody thinks about, oh, maybe I should know who Benny Santini is.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I'd be a real dickhead if I said to you, who's Benny Santini?
Good on you for not thinking
Yeah,
that
and
way.
he said, yeah, he said, maybe. And he said, well, Benny Santini was a guy I used to hang out with at school. I went to school with Benny Santini. I said, really?
A real
And he said,
person.
we left school, I never saw him again.
Hence
So
the name.
whatever happened to Benny Santini?
Nothing to do with the music, just one of those obscure, something that meant something to him.
There you go. I did the same with David Gates from
Yes.
Bread.
Oh, Bread, yes.
Yeah, and I said to him, one of your songs, or a lot of your songs are magic love songs. And he said, what's your favourites? I said, oh, yeah, I like them all.
Yeah.
But everything I own, I mean, it's renowned as one of the greatest love songs ever. He said, not a love song. I said, what? This is David Gates, lead singer of Bread.
Yeah, yes.
And I said, it's not a love song? I would give everything I own just to have you back again.
Yeah, correct.
He said, no, I wrote that song the night my father died.
Oh,
I said, really? And every time I hear that song, I tear up because I think of my dad.
yes.
And if you listen to it, there's not one relationship or girl thing or anything mentioned to the whole. It's a song to his dad.
Isn't music, and you would have seen that.
Full of surprises.
And it's the soundtrack of our lives, but the highs and lows of emotion. I can't listen beautiful song to the living years.
I'm the same, yeah.
Because the year my father died, 1989, far too young, the song was popular. Now, no one's fault. It just the two marry, and I should, because it's, you know, it's
Well,
just,
it's a spark, a reminder.
Yeah.
Same thing happened. Strangely enough, you mentioned that song because that was a hit when my dad died as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And my dad died in Melbourne. He would have hated that.
Oh.
No, he wouldn't. Victoria. Oh gosh. But my sister and I flew over there, and sorted my mum out and sort of things that came back, and when I got back, I was away for a week. The first morning that was the first song that was on my log to play. Oh. And then Les Cookie was the producer. Ran and said, oh, Gaz, I'm so sorry. So I said, mate, it's a song. Don't worry about it. You were thinking that, and that's all good. You know?
As they say, life goes on. But it's a great... Now, you're prepared. You've interviewed all these people, some nice, some not so nice, some talkative, some not so talkative. There would have been people that you were on your way to interview that you were genuinely, and when you got to these interviews, starstruck by.
Oh, yes.
Give us a couple of examples.
I can give you my two favourites, the only
Please.
two autographs I've ever asked for.
Right. And you were starstruck with these people.
Starstruck, yep. It was Paul McCartney.
Oh,
This is an incredible story
give us the
too.
Paul McCartney story.
This is an incredible story. Graham Cherry, who was my very first program director, I loved Graham. Yeah. He was, everyone was terrified, but I got Graham, and we became great mates. Yeah. And anyway, I'm a kid, 17, and he calls me into his office. He goes, mate. He said, you've got some spare time. How are we going down there in the cart room? I said, yeah, I got it under control. So I want you to go down to the entertainment centre. I said, oh, yeah. He said, Jim Beam, he's supposed to do this, but he's fallen crook, apparently, you know. And I said, oh, yeah. He said, the 6KY, remember the 6KY colour cars,
yes.
the big Ford Falcons?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he grabbed the keys. He said, take the colour car, go down to the entertainment centre, take a tape deck with you, and get some grabs off Paul McCartney. I said, sorry? The Paul McCartney? Yeah, the record company guys have invited only a handful of people.
So it was Wings, wasn't it?
This is Wings.
Yep.
They're rehearsing at the entertainment centre.
Oh.
So I said, holy crap. You know, so okay, I get the car and I can hardly see over the wheel.
You hadn't got your licence, had you?
Well, that's another story.
Oh, no, don't.
No, that's another. I don't know whether I can tell. I'll tell it later on. But so I've driven down the entertainment centre, parked in the car park there, gone in, and I've walked in, and there's Paul McCartney and Wings, flat out on stage doing Jet. You know,
Oh,
suffer
great
and
song.
chat. You know, I'm going.
Yes.
Oh, I've died and I'm gone to heaven.
17 years of age.
There's Linda there doing nothing, and there's Paul, Lenny. What's his name? He was one of the members of Wings.
Denny Lane.
Thank you, Denny Lane. It's the first time I've heard that name for a long time.
Yeah.
I think he's passed away recently. But anyway, Denny Lane was there, and about 4 or 5 other people. Sunday Times,
Sure,
Channel
on the journals,
9, Channel 7, 6. We were the radio station 6KY,
Yeah.
who was sponsoring it,
Sure.
sponsoring Wings.
Yep.
So we were there in me. And this tape deck, is it all right?
Just
Is it,
checking, yeah.
Triple checking and all that. Anyway, we get invited for 2 or 3 minutes to go on stage, talk to Paul McCartney. Macca's up there. I can call him Macca now. I know him, mate. So I walk up there. He goes, who have we got here? I said, hey, mate, I'm Gary, and I'm here from 6KY, a radio station which is not far from here, it's just down in James Street. Going, all right.
You're nervous.
What am I? I'm talking to Paul McCartney like he knows the town.
Yeah.
You know? And so he goes, so what can I do for you, Gary? And I said, well, I'm here to get a couple of grabs. So I kid you not, he's grabbed me like this. He said, how's this for starters? Here's one grab for you, Gary.
So he's a real
And he's
character.
pissing himself laughing.
Yeah.
And I start laughing.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you can let me go now.
So he was full of fun.
Just a guy, having fun. And he was delightful. Here's one grab,
Yeah.
And he said, I know what you mean. I said, yeah, we're sponsoring your tour. He said, oh, that's nice, yeah. It was like that.
Yeah.
And he
Down
just
to earth.
One take. Hi, this is Paul McCartney, and I got him to say I'm here with Graham Cherry in the Breakfast Show, and we're playing the Entertainment Centre on Thursday night. Try and get a ticket if you can get one, and come along or
Lovely.
whatever. That sort of thing.
Yeah, love them.
And he did it. 4 or 5 of us. I went back, and Cherry thought I was terrific, and it was all tickety-boo. But I asked him for his autograph.
Right.
And he said, hey, what do you to get? I said, no, just Paul McCartney, just Paul McCartney.
Really?
He said, you want this to be worth money when I'm dead, don't you?
Did he?
And laughed his head out, and he said, good on you.
And did you?
No, well, he's not dead yet.
No. But were you thinking like that, or
Yes.
not? You were.
Well, I'd heard autographs are worth a lot more.
So you were even thinking like that as a
Well,
young...
well, I wasn't 100% thinking
No.
that, but I thought it was a good idea.
But he took the piss out of himself as well.
Yeah, he did.
Great.
And, I mean, that's about 70. That's 73.
Yeah, it is.
73?
Yeah, the Wings, yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wings at Entertainment Centre.
Yeah. And what a band they were. Straight out of...
Oh.
You got to remember, when they were playing on top of the Apple building and
He was
finishing
great,
the Beatles, that's 3 or 4 years only before.
Yeah.
He obviously got married to Linda Eastman, which
Yep.
became Linda McCartney, and
Yep.
then obviously Wings. And what a body of work they had.
Oh,
No, and
only
people-
the greatest of all
But
time.
people forget at times, don't they? The McCartney, I guess...
What spins me out about the Beatles,
Yep.
when I think they had their first hit, was it 62,
Yeah,
63?
something like that,
They
yeah.
broke up in 1970.
Yep.
That's 6-7 years.
Very short.
And what they left behind was unbelievable.
And look, a lot of purists will say, and I probably agree, the Wings catalogue not quite up there with the Beatles, even though it has
Pretty
the
good,
McCartney
though.
side. But Mull of Kintyre and all the great songs, Jet, as you said, Live and Let Die, wonderful. But I love hearing stories like
They're
that.
a band on the run, mate.
Oh, what an album cover that was!
Brilliant.
Guessing all
Brilliant,
this
yeah.
stuff. But
After that day down there, I was surprised I wasn't in the photo.
oh well, maybe the next album when he comes back. Now that you've made a comeback.
That's right.
I'll set you a task. He's coming into the podcast studios to do. I'll gladly move aside.
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks.
That was the other autograph I got.
Yeah, I remember you telling me this
Yeah,
story. You were starstruck.
Like every
Yeah.
hot, red-blooded young man in the world was at the time. Everyone loved Stevie.
We hear different stories about the various members of Fleetwood Mac over the years, and the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations. What was she like?
Gorgeous, in a word.
Did she live up to your expectations?
Yes, yep.
Great.
She was kind of dressed a bit gypsy-like,
Yep.
like she used to dress. And it was, we were the sponsors once again of the Tusk tour.
Oh, great.
The double album
Yes.
had come out, and they were doing a world tour in here in Perth.
Yep.
6 p.m. with a radio
Your
station that
PM
promoted
now, yep.
it. So we got invited up to the Mediterranean. It's actually a Mediterranean restaurant, but it was before it was the Mediterranean restaurant. There's like rooms there.
Right.
So then they put on a cup of tea and a bit of cake and all that sort of stuff.
You've done some of your best work at the Mediterranean, haven't you?
Well, I have. There was a couple of times there that
Yeah.
that won't make the interview.
Not this one.
God bless her. Anyway, so getting back to Stevie Nicks, if we can, please, Declan.
Sorry.
So yes, all the members of Fleetwood Mac were there, but I zoned in on Stevie, of course, as you were. And there was myself, Ron Beetson, I think John Burgess was there, maybe Lionel Yorkie, Bob Stewart, all the guys.
Oh,
you know.
yeah, yep.
So we're there, Leo Nelson, and we're there and chatting away. It was like we're just having a cup of tea and chatting away to Fleetwood Mac, which was awesome. But I sat next to Stevie, fought 3 people to do it.
Yeah.
And she asked me a bit about Perth and what I did, and she was interested, and you know, I asked her what she did, and then I laughed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But breaks the ice.
She thought I was a funny guy. God help her. And we had a good laugh and talked about many things, and she was so awesome. And they had a press conference kit, which they all had,
Sure.
and Fleetwood Mac and all that, and it was a folder, right? So she grabbed that and I said, "Can I get an autograph off you, Stevie?" I said, "I don't normally ask you, but I'll make an exception here." She laughed. She said, "Okay." And she actually, I've still got it today. She said, to Gary, it was lovely meeting you with you and chatting with you, and all the best forever. Love, Stevie Nicks. And she drew a little witch on the end of it.
Lovely.
Yeah, and God, I've still got that.
Yeah,
you know?
genuine superstar and lived up to your expectations.
That was 77, maybe 79.
Yeah, Tusk.
79.
Yes,
I
Tusk,
think.
absolutely.
It's a long time ago. Yeah, and she was hot.
Yeah, a very good-looking lady and very
Beautiful.
talented. If you just joined us, this is Still Here and Unsupervised. Gary Shannon, hearing the life and times, some great stories, some memorable, some not so memorable, as we work our way through. A lot of questions came in about this.
The next lot will be not so memorable. Even I won't remember them.
Well, no, your memory, and it's great to see, because you're plucking out the years and the back catalogue of work that you did, the body of work. A couple of ones that perhaps didn't leave a great impression. Now, I think we all know over the years, the Kiss Army, the famous makeup-driven rock band, have to say very successful. And I had a couple of encounters too, not in front of the microphone, but behind the scenes and hearing the stories. And one of them, you probably met them on numerous occasions, but one of them was when you were on 96 FM and they came into the studio. Interesting bunch. Well, let's talk about Paul and Gene.
Well,
the two
they're the
main-
only two I've interviewed.
Yeah, because that really,
the Kiss members,
Yeah.
Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
I'd interviewed them once at PMFM as well.
Yes.
And the same vibe.
Yeah.
And then I interviewed them with Jane Marwick again at 96.
That was in my time.
in your time. Both times, I'm sad to say, and you know, I've told this story before, and Kiss fans don't like me for
Well,
it.
you're telling
But
the truth.
you know, they were just arrogant assholes. To tell you the truth.
Well, let me set the scene. When you worked with me at 96, I had an office. You'd do your morning show, and we had a ritual where you'd come in, have a morning cup of tea, and because I had 2 radio stations, might ask you how the day was going. And there's a story later on where you did come in and tell me a horrific story with your colleague at the time, Jane Marwick. But I remember the day, I knew they were in the building. There was a little bit of fans down in the foyer, a bit of press
Bit
around.
of buzz around the place.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of the staff who were quite used to seeing famous people. There was probably a little bit more buzz because Kiss, obviously no makeup on, are in the building and doing what we call pre-recorded interviews. Some of them are live on air and some of them are in a studio. What did you encounter the second time with the boys?
At 96. Yeah. Well, in their favour, you know, I will say, I think the guys try a little bit too hard to be rock and roll. You know,
The
how,
image they
how
have to live
people
up to.
perceive rock and roll, man. A bit like the Stones, they overdo it a bit too, don't they? you
Well, I
know?
believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, sex and drugs and rock and roll and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and, which is a bit old hat these days.
They don't want to let the guard down, do they?
No. And so anyway, they were both Gene and Paul were on the two occasions I interviewed were both a bit like that, over the top that way. So we're in the production studio.
That's right.
Interviewing me and Jane with Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and they were like, yeah. We love money, man. We love money. I'm going, oh, that's nice, you know. And
Just obnoxious.
yeah, obnoxious and unnecessary. And you know, we love money and women, man. And the girls were walking, you know, staff members.
I remember.
And he's sniffing the glass. He said we could smell them as they walk past. And I'm going, oh, anyway, back to the tour. And you know,
Yeah.
it was all that. And
So you're really uncomfortable?
well, I didn't give a shit.
No, but just the way the tone of the.
Yeah, it wasn't nice.
I
It
remember
was-
you telling me.
Yeah, it wasn't nice and
Yeah.
unnecessary. Yeah.
Yeah, and I even remember a couple of staff members, younger staff members who probably weren't fans of Kiss, to be
No.
honest, who worked, just felt they didn't touch anyone or anything, but just uncomfortable, especially the Gene Simmons side of things.
Yeah.
I think, from what I heard, Paul Stanley not quite as obnoxious.
I think he tries to, for Gene's sake, to be
Yeah.
a little more like him.
Yeah, they were
That's-
playing. They were playing at the Wacker that tour because I remember the CEO of the Fremantle Dockers was Cameron Schwab.
Yep.
And I had a lot to do with them because of the 6PR side of my business with football. And Cameron rang me up, and normally it was, oh, you've gone too hard on our footy team, or whatever. You got to do me a favour. I said, I have to do you a favour. What's the favour? You got to get me backstage. I'm a Kiss fanatic. He went up on stage and presented Fremantle jumpers. It was interesting, and I digress. This is your podcast, but I digress of watching people in high positions becoming fanboys or
Yeah,
fangirls,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
very funny. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people that I'd be starstruck by as well, but it
Sure.
was the same tour, but I always remember you. One on...
Well, Jane, when
Oh,
we
yeah.
finished that interview,
Yep.
she looked at me and it kind of backed up the way I felt. She said, well, that was repulsive. And
Yeah.
that's what she said. You
Yeah,
know?
well, Jane's a classy lady and
Yeah.
would have felt that
She
way and
wasn't happy with it.
uncomfortable. No, not
No.
at all. One of the unsavoury ones, and it made world news, this very, very sordid tale. I speak of, they call him the boy from Bassendean, and I struggle even with the name Rolf Harris, who grew up in Bassendean, great career here, it's got to be said, and went across, and I got to tell you, Gary, from living and working in the UK, he was a household name.
Superstar.
You know, he had a private audience with the late Queen Elizabeth, painted her portrait. No one could deny the man's talent, but it's since come out what a pedophile and what a nasty character he was, and his legacy is absolutely tarnished, as it should be.
Yes.
So we're working. We have both stations at Hay Street in East Perth, not far from where we're recording. We've got the music station 96 FM, and we've got the talk station in 6PR. And a lot of artists would come in, and they'd actually work from one station to the other to different audiences.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember the morning, you're going to tell the backstory, but I'm sitting in my office. I realise they're in the building, but I've got my own work and staff issues to deal with. And you and Jane came into my office, and I could feel the tension in the atmosphere. Rolf Harris had come in. None of these stories were, there might have been one or two rumours, but certainly what wasn't common knowledge, had come into the building to be interviewed for something, and you were on 96 with Jane, and again, like Kiss, he'd come in to pre-record and do a segment. What happened?
Well, we had him on the air for half an hour
Yep.
or so and did the interview, and,
Yep.
and it all went quite well.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the end, Matt Hale, who was producing the breakfast
Yep.
show at the time, Matt said, "Okay, before you go, Rolf, can I get a photograph with you and Gary
Which is
and
not
Jane?"
uncommon. Yep.
Every time,
Yep.
you know. He goes, "Sure." So we did it all behind the wobble board.
Yes.
He put the wobble board. I was standing onto his left, and Jane was standing to his right.
Yes.
And the photograph was us behind the wobble board. And all of a sudden, there's a hell of a commotion. What are you doing? And Jane starts half screaming, and
Yeah.
and then he grabs the wobble board and races out of the studio,
He's gone.
like that. And I said, what's going on? What's happening? And Jane said, "Oh my God!" She was white, and she said, he groped me. He not only groped me, but aggressively groped me. I said, what do you mean? Downstairs? And she said, yeah, she was in shock.
Oh, absolutely.
And Matt Hale, and I said, well, fuck him. And I went running, and Matt Hale and Fitzy, I think Fitzy was there too.
Right, yep.
Fitzy grabbed me, and Matt Hale, I wanted to go and punch his lights out. I wish I had him.
So he'd run out of the studio.
Gone.
We're on the first floor lift, and he's gone.
Gone.
And your colleague stopped you. Where I came into it was, I'm in my office. I'm oblivious to all this because I'm in the middle of the building. You guys come in, and you and Jane,
tell the story.
Tell me the story. I'm in utter shock. Now, none of these stories.
Everyone
have come out.
was.
And I remember saying, and Jane and I spoke about it years later. I spoke about it at the time.
I mean, it had a bit of reputation, but nothing like eventually happened.
Yeah, makeup staff out of Channel 7. This all came out later. And I remember saying to Jane, I really didn't know what to do. Do I call the police? She said, no, I don't want anything done. And she verified all this years later. She was interviewed then and spoke about it. The lady, who's a class act in every shape and a true lady, was obviously shocked. And I remember years later when the stories broke, that incident was even quoted in the national newspapers in England about a Perth radio star that had been...
Well, Jane and I were on the BBC. They flew out and interviewed us.
Yes, worldwide, absolutely.
And they interviewed, because it became such a big story, they were looking for other examples of his... bad practices.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of them. And just going around, the makeup girls from Channel 7.
Yeah, all came, because people with his power...
Louise Anton,
yes.
My dear friend,
yes.
She was his victim too.
Wow.
And she went public with it.
Good.
With us.
Yeah, good.
And a lot of people did.
Yes.
But the list was very long.
Endless. And there's been documentaries ever since.
Yeah, very bad man.
A sordid time, a shocking time, and these stories only come out years later, and his legacy tarnished, rightly so.
I had a strange history with Rolf.
Did you?
I can remember being quite a small boy.
Yeah.
And every time he came on television,
because he was big on TV here before he went to the UK, wasn't he?
Very much so. In Perth, particularly.
Yeah. The boy from Bassendean.
Channel 7.
Yeah.
Channel 7. Remember, you just did that voice.
Yes.
So he was on Channel 7 a lot, and every time I saw him as a boy, he gave me the creeps. I hated two things in those days. Rolf Harris and the Gollywog on Noddy.
Yeah.
Noddy gave me the creeps, that show, and Rolf Harris gave me the creeps. I didn't like either of them. I wasn't a fan.
No.
Later in life, a morning crew, we did a thing with Rolf Harris. He was performing at that Max K's
Civic Theatre restaurant. Yep.
So we had a breakfast at the Civic Theatre, and everybody was to come along dressed, like Rolf Harris, beard and mo and all that sort of stuff. And best one wins prizes, and had 60 people there or something. And me, Jane, and Redmond and Gary Kay was there.
Yes.
His father owned the whole thing.
That's right, Max.
And the weirdest thing happened. We introduced Rolf. He came out and sat with everybody, and every time he spoke, he said, "What would he know?" Like me, he was really. He thinks he's pretty good, doesn't he? Who do you think you are? Like I'm thinking, what's this guy? Where's this coming from? I don't even know him.
Yes.
It was weird.
Yes. Complex, strange, evil man.
A very evil man.
Now, someone who wasn't evil, let's finish off this podcast. Someone who put a bit of fear into people, but not in any sinister way, just with his hard exterior. He came across as the coach of from Footscray to West Coast Eagles, Michael Malthouse. Mick Malthouse, he obviously coached the West Coast Eagles to premiership glory. He had a reputation where even young journalists were a little bit nervous. I was a fearsome character. He went on and even did a breakfast show there with Dennis Cometti at the coach, wasn't it?
Cometti and the
coach later. But you told me a funny story, and I'd like to finish on this one. Obviously, through your radio gigs at the time, Mick was very prominent in the media, and there was sponsorship opportunities. Tell us your Mick Malthouse story, which is very funny.
Which one?
Well, the one you told me about. Mick could be a little bit fearsome, maybe didn't have a huge amount of friends here, and you did tell me that occasionally you were...
every Friday I had to go to lunch with him.
You tell the story.
Well, I presume you've really tipped me in the deep end here.
Sorry.
So Mick, he was from the east, as you know, and coaching the West Coast Eagles. I heard numerous stories. I was very close to a lot of the players. I won't name the players, but they said, yeah, Mick, he was a bit of a tough taskmaster,
Yes.
and wasn't close to too many people. So we got the contract to have him on the breakfast show.
Sure.
Yeah, once a week.
Oh, great, yeah.
But I had to go to lunch with him every Friday.
So you got to know him, a bit of rapport with
Oh,
him.
yeah. He was astounded at my knowledge of football, particularly West Australian football.
Yes.
I told him about Ivan Glusina and Mal Brown and all sorts of people.
Yeah.
And he found my conversations very interesting. Thank God. But,
So you had to go to lunch with him?
had to go to lunch with him.
Most Fridays for a while?
Yeah, for quite a long time, yeah. And it became a bit of a pain in the arse. He was all right, Mick, but, he was... Well, let me put it this way. Jane Marwick tells the story. She was working at 96 FM,
Yep.
got the boot from... This is just before we picked her up to come to the morning crew.
Right.
Got the boot from 96, and they had Mick Malthouse at the time, and she used to organise things for Mick, he rang her the day that she got the boot.
Right.
And Jane's thinking, oh, that's nice of Mick. He's obviously thinking of me, that I got the sack and he's going to wish me well.
Yeah, of course.
And he says, Jane, I heard you've been dismissed from 96 FM. She says, yes, Mick, yeah. He said, well, what about my movie passes? Oh, yeah, great. I'll see what I can do about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you get the picture?
Yeah, I got the picture, and he didn't get the movies, and you went to lunch with him each Friday.
Yeah, and which became a bit of a chore.
Right. Well, on that note, there's a lot more stories, as you can see. Gary Shannon is still here.
Yeah, thanks for that.
He's unsupervised. You've been watching the podcast. Please like it. Please subscribe it. And remember, once you subscribe, you'll get notifications for the life and times of Gary Shannon. We'll get into a bit more, not that it hasn't been serious stuff, but a lot more of the serious issues that Gary can tackle as well in future episodes. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with our next episode very soon.